All right, let's dive in. We've got this awesome paper someone sent in all about the Truman Show.
Yeah.
That Jim Carrey movie where he's living this perfect life but has no idea it's all fake.
Right, right.
This paper digs into how the movie tackles tech in our modern world, critiques stuff like surveillance capitalism, and even gets into like bigger ideas like late capitalism and
It's
post-colonialism.
pretty wild how The Truman Show, even though it came out way back in '98,
Yeah.
feels even more relevant now.
Oh, totally. It's almost like they knew what was coming.
Totally.
One thing that really jumped out from the paper is how it shows this kind of dark side of technology. It's not just about having cool gadgets, but how tech can be used to, like, control us.
Absolutely. The film goes all in on that, doesn't it? I mean, just think about Truman for a second.
Yeah.
His whole life, his relationships, everything orchestrated just for entertainment.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how much of our own lives are really ours anymore with all this data collection and online tracking.
Seriously. It's making me think of those targeted ads, the
Yeah.
ones that are, like, creepily spot on.
Oh, yeah, those are something else.
But the paper takes it a step further. It critiques this idea of achieving utopia through technology. They use Sea Haven, Truman's seemingly perfect town, as like a prime example.
Right, Sea Haven. It's presented as this idyllic community, but it's all just a facade, right?
Totally.
A carefully built world designed to keep Truman contained.
It reminds me of those sci-fi stories where the pursuit of a perfect society actually backfires and creates a bunch of new problems.
Totally, like unintended consequences and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what really got me thinking is how the paper brings in this concept of telestimulation. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I think so.
Basically, it's using technology to subtly push people towards certain behaviors.
I see.
It's like a sneakier form of control compared to just straight up telling people what to do.
Yeah, it's more like manipulation, right?
Right. And the film shows this perfectly with Christoph, the show's producer.
Oh, yeah, he's the mastermind.
He messes with Truman's environment, his experiences, even stages that whole childhood trauma with his dad drowning.
Oh, man, that scene is so tough to watch.
I know, right? And it's all part of Christoph's plan to instill this fear of water in Truman, keeping him trapped on the island.
It's amazing how he controls every little detail.
It makes you wonder how much of our own behavior is being shaped by similar tactics in the real world.
Oh, I bet it's more than we realize.
It's like, think about those social media algorithms that keep us scrolling endlessly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or those targeted ads that play on our insecurities or desires.
It's like a constant bombardment of information, all designed to influence us,
Yeah.
often without us even knowing it.
Exactly. And the paper argues that the Truman Show kind of predicted this trend, showing how technology can shape our choices and limit our freedom in subtle ways.
Yeah, it's kind of unsettling when you think about it.
Right. It's a lot to process. Okay, next up, the paper goes into this whole concept of late capitalism.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I had to do a little refresher on my economics for this one.
It can be a dense topic, that's for sure.
But the way the paper explains it using the film is super interesting.
So how do they connect it?
Well, they basically say the film gives us this really vivid picture of late capitalism's main idea, turning everything into a commodity, even human life itself. Like, Christoph owns Truman's entire existence, turns his life into this product for everyone to consume.
Wow, that's heavy.
So does that mean we're all becoming like Truman then? Like products to be bought and sold?
It's a question the film makes us ask, for sure.
It makes you think about all the personal data that companies collect and use to make money.
Yeah, and not just companies. Think about the whole influencer industry.
Oh, right.
People's lives, or at least their online personas, become these products.
And people buy into it.
They consume it, and companies profit from it.
The paper argues that The Truman Show was ahead of its time in showing us this trend.
It's kind of freaky how accurate it turned out to be.
Totally agree. Okay, now buckle up, because here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The paper dives into this concept called surveillance capitalism.
Surveillance capitalism. That sounds intense.
I know, right? It sounds like something from a dystopian novel.
Straight out of 1984 or something.
But here's the thing. It's our reality.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it basically describes a system where companies collect tons of data about what we do online and offline, both.
Okay.
And they use this data to predict our behavior, manipulate our choices, and ultimately, you guessed it, make a profit.
So are you saying we're all like Truman, just with less obvious cameras following us?
In a way, yeah. Every click, everything we buy online, it all feeds into this massive data pool.
Wow.
And this data is used to influence what we do next.
It's kind of creepy how subtle it is.
I know. It's like we're all living in this giant, invisible Truman Show, constantly being watched and nudged in certain directions.
It's a lot to say again.
It is. The paper even brings up Pokemon Go as a real-world example.
Wait, Pokemon Go, how does that fit in?
I was confused too at first, but it makes sense when you think about it.
Right. Okay, explain to me.
So, Pokemon Go, while being a super fun game, it encourages players to go to specific locations in the real world, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times, these locations are businesses.
Okay.
And this gives the game creators valuable data on where people are going and what they're interested in.
Hmm.
And that data can be used for things like targeted advertising.
Ah, I see.
It's like the game itself is a form of telestimulation, right? Subtly influencing where we go and turning our everyday activities into data points that can be used for profit.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
And that's not even taking into account all the data collected through our smartphones and social media profiles.
That's a lot to think about.
It is. The Truman Show really warned us about this stuff.
It did. We got to be aware of how our data is being used and question the systems that are designed to monitor and manipulate us.
Okay, this is getting pretty deep.
It is, but it's important stuff.
Totally agree. But before we have a full-on existential crisis, let's shift gears a bit. The paper brings up another fascinating perspective, and this one really surprised me.
Oh, I'm all ears.
They analyzed the Truman Show through a post-colonial lens.
Now that's an interesting connection.
I know, right? When I first read that, I was like, wait, post-colonialism?
Yeah.
Like what we learned about empires and colonization in history class.
Right, right.
How does that relate to the Truman Show?
Well, think about the power dynamics.
Okay.
The paper argues that Christoph, the show's producer, he's basically the colonizer.
Interesting.
He's got all the control, manipulates information to shape Truman's reality.
And Truman is like the colonized subject?
Exactly. He's living in this manufactured world that he thinks is real.
So it's about the power imbalance, the control over information, and the manipulation of reality.
Precisely. Like how colonizers often controlled the narrative and shaped how colonized people understood their own history and culture.
Wow, that's a really powerful analogy.
It is, isn't it?
It makes you think how much of our own understanding of the world is being shaped by similar forces. I mean, think about media advertising, even social media algorithms.
Oh, totally. They all play a role in shaping our perceptions.
They constantly influence us and shape our reality.
It's like this constant battle for control over information and the narratives that shape our world.
And the Truman Show highlights this struggle in a really profound way.
Yeah, it makes you think twice about what you believe.
It reminds us to be critical thinkers and question the sources of information that shape our reality.
Exactly. Don't just take things at face value.
It's making me want to go on a full-blown media detox.
I feel that.
But seriously, it's a good reminder to be more aware of the forces that shape our perceptions.
Couldn't agree more. It's crazy how the paper connects these, like, big picture ideas from post-colonialism to our everyday lives.
Right.
It's not just some abstract theory. It really affects how we navigate the world, especially online.
Yeah, totally. Like, I'm just now realizing how much of my online experience is shaped by algorithms and, like, corporate interests. It's almost like a subtle form of colonialism happening in the digital space.
Exactly. And the paper goes even deeper, exploring how The Truman Show critiques the media's role in all of this.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's not just about technology itself. It's about how it's used to control the narrative and influence how we see the world.
Like how some news outlets or social media platforms kind of push certain agendas or present information with a bias.
Oh, absolutely.
That makes you realize how important it is to be a critical consumer of media and, like, get different perspectives.
Wholesomely. Question everything. Be wary of narratives that are presented as the absolute truth.
It's easy to get caught up in the entertainment of The Truman Show, but when you really think about it, it's a powerful statement on how the media can manipulate and control.
For sure. And this connects back to the idea of the simulacrum. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah, that whole concept of a copy without an original, like a hyper-reality, where it's hard to tell what's real and what's fake.
Right. And Sea Haven, Truman's Town, is a perfect example.
Oh, totally. It's this beautiful, perfect setting, but it's completely made up.
It's like a simulation of a real town, all designed to keep Truman in the dark and contained.
And the media within Truman's world, it just reinforces this fake reality, right?
Yeah, presenting this carefully curated version of events that benefits Christoph.
It makes you wonder how much of our own world is a simulacrum.
That's a good question.
Like, think about how much of our lives we experience through screens, filtered by algorithms, shaped by the stories we consume.
It's something to think about for sure. The film challenges us to really examine where our information comes from.
And to be more discerning about what we accept as reality.
Absolutely. Don't just blindly believe everything you see and hear.
This is making me want to ditch my phone and go live in a cabin in the woods.
I get it.
Okay, maybe not that extreme, but it's a good reminder to be more aware of the forces that shape our perceptions.
Agreed. But before we get too down on ourselves, the film does offer a glimmer of hope, too.
Oh, right. It's not all doom and gloom.
Right. Even though he's been controlled and manipulated his whole life, Truman eventually breaks free.
Yeah, he chooses to step into the unknown, even though it's scary.
He embraces the uncertainty and challenges of the real world.
That ending is so powerful, it gives me chills every time.
It's a testament to the human spirit, our resilience and desire for authenticity.
It's like Truman's escape shows us that it is possible to break free from these manufactured realities, whether those realities are imposed by technology, media, or even just societal norms.
Exactly. And that brings us to another key point the paper makes: the importance of individual agency and critical thinking.
So it's not just about being aware of the problem, it's about actually doing something about it.
Yeah, making conscious choices about how we engage with technology, media, the information we take in.
The Truman Show doesn't give us all the answers, but it encourages us to question, to challenge, to seek out our own truth.
It's a call to action, to be more mindful, more critical, and more intentional about the realities we create for ourselves.
This deep dive has been mind-blowing. It's crazy how a film from 1998 can still be so relevant today.
I know, right?
It's like The Truman Show predicted social media, reality TV, our obsession with surveillance.
It's pretty amazing.
The film's lasting impact speaks volumes about its insights into human nature and our relationship with technology and media.
Totally. It's a timeless masterpiece that keeps challenging us to think critically about the world.
And I think the most important takeaway from this whole paper is that we're not helpless.
Right.
We have a choice. We can resist the forces that try to control us, break free from our made-up realities.
And create a more authentic and meaningful life.
That's a powerful message. But before we wrap up, there's one more interesting thing from the paper I want to touch on.
Oh, what's that?
It talks about the film's unique blend of genres, saying it's one reason why The Truman Show has resonated with so many people around the world.
I've always loved how it blends satire, sci-fi, drama, even a little romance.
Me too. It makes you think, but it's also super entertaining.
Exactly. The film's masterful genre bending lets it tackle complex ideas while still being accessible to a wide audience.
Yeah, it doesn't feel preachy or academic at all.
Nope. It's a story that connects with us on an emotional level while also making us think critically about the world.
It's a film that sticks with you long after you've seen it.
For sure. It sparks conversations and makes us reflect on our own lives.
And the paper argues that this mix of genres is key to the film's lasting impact.
Makes sense.
The satire lets us laugh at the absurdity of Truman's situation while also recognizing the unsettling parallels to our own lives.
Right.
The sci-fi elements make us think about technology, reality, consciousness.
Big questions.
And the drama keeps us emotionally invested in Truman's journey, rooting for him to break free.
It's a brilliant combination.
It makes The Truman Show both entertaining and intellectually stimulating.
And the paper highlights how this blend of genres helps the film cross cultural boundaries and resonate with audiences worldwide.
That makes sense. It really is a universal story.
It speaks to universal themes of freedom, authenticity, the search for meaning in a world that can often feel artificial.
It really is amazing how The Truman Show manages to be both entertaining and make you think.
Yeah.
It's definitely become a classic for a reason.
And the paper points out how important the film's use of humor is, especially the satire.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like we're allowed to laugh at how absurd Truman's situation is.
Right.
But at the same time, it makes us see these uncomfortable parallels to our own lives.
Totally. The film is kind of poking fun at our obsession with reality TV, celebrity culture, that whole voyeuristic thing with modern media.
Yeah.
It holds up a mirror to society and asks us, are we part of the problem?
It definitely makes you think about your own role.
It's like that moment when you're watching some reality TV show and you're like, wait a minute, I'm part of the system I'm criticizing.
The film exposes that hypocrisy so well.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront this truth, that we're often both the watcher and the watched.
It's a bit of a mind trip, honestly.
It is.
But I think the film does a good job of balancing that social commentary with moments of humor and heart.
Oh, absolutely. It's not all doom and gloom.
Right. There's warmth in how Truman interacts with the world, even though it's all fake.
And of course, there's that romance with Sylvia.
Oh, yeah.
Adds a whole other layer of emotion to the film.
That scene where they meet at the beach.
Oh, so good.
It's so sweet and kind of sad at the same time.
Yeah, it's bittersweet.
It represents that desire for a genuine connection.
That longing for something real.
And that need to break free from this artificial world.
Exactly. Sylvia represents the possibility of something authentic.
Yeah, something outside of that manufactured reality.
Which Truman has always known.
And even though Christoph cuts their relationship short.
Ugh, he's such a puppet master.
I know, right? But it still sparks something in Truman.
Definitely.
Makes him realize there could be a different life out there.
It plants that seed of doubt.
Yeah.
That desire for something more.
And ultimately, that's what drives him to seek the truth.
Right, to break free.
It's like Sylvia's presence, even though it was brief, represents how human connection can awaken us to our own potential.
Yeah, it can inspire us to seek a more authentic life.
And that brings us to the film's ending.
The grand finale.
Which the paper describes as hopeful but also ambiguous.
I love how open-ended it is.
Me too. Truman takes this leap of faith into the unknown.
Yeah.
But we have no idea what happens to him next.
It's up to us to imagine.
Exactly. Does he find freedom and happiness? Or does he face new challenges? Who knows?
It's like the film is saying that pursuing freedom and authenticity is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
We have to keep striving for it.
And that's a really powerful message, don't you think?
It is. It encourages us to keep questioning, keep exploring,
Yeah.
to never stop seeking our own truth.
Even when it's tough.
This has been such an incredible deep dive, uncovering all these layers of meaning in The Truman Show.
I agree. It's been fascinating.
I'm so glad we did this together.
Me too. It's amazing how a film can spark so much thought and conversation even after all these years.
It shows you how relevant it still is.
It speaks to something fundamental about being human, you know? Our desire for connection, for authenticity.
Yeah, that struggle against forces that try to control and define us.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with one final question to think about.
Okay, hit us with it.
How much of your own life is a Truman Show?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What parts of Truman's journey resonate with you? What steps can you take to be more aware of the forces shaping your reality?
And how can you create a more authentic and meaningful life for yourself?
Lots to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you next time for another exciting exploration of ideas and insights.